welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. So as you guys saw in that fantastic cinematic trailer, that trailer was of course made by Draken watches. The watch I am going to unbox for you today is their brand new release. So let's take out the box, let's see what they have given us. So first off, the person that I have been speaking to from Draken watches, his name is Mike. Very down-to-earth micro brand owner. Now this Draken micro brand originates from New Zealand, and I have reviewed a Draken watch previously on my channel, and that was the Tegula. I will of course link that video in the description if you want to check it out. I'll leave all details for the website within the video. Now Mike has sent this watch for review. Now looking at what he's given me, straight away put a big smile on my face, and he's given me some chocolates. So he's also given other chocolates with other names on there, which of course are not my names, which means that this watch is going to go to other reviewers. Now, unfortunately, the chocolates will not make it to them because I don't think Mike knows me too well. Massive fan of chocolate. So this great New Zealand chocolate, sorry, Joshua, Will, Mike, you won't be seeing these. You'll just get the watch, and that's that. So let's get this out the box, let's get that out the way, and let's crack on with this unboxing / review of this brand new prototype watch. Chocolate provided by Draken watches is called Whittaker's Marlborough Sea Salt and Caramel Brittle. It looks to be quite good actually. Oh, my bad, I'm reviewing a watch today. So let's have a look, first impressions at this watch. Now bear in mind, it is a prototype watch. This is Draken's 5th timepiece that they have come out with. And you know, they focus on tool watches, right? That's their motto, the ethos in the company. And I really like the message behind Draken watches. They are a very theme orientated watch, and that's one of the things I love about micro brands. Now as you can see, a big rhino on the front, and this watch is nicknamed the Kruger, which is after the Kruger National Park, which is found in South Africa. Now that is pretty significant in this watch, and I absolutely love the message behind it and the mission behind this watch. So stay tuned, I'll go into all that as soon as we take it out. So this watch comes to you in a very tactical pouch. I think it's quite different, you know. Everyone out there is looking at different types of packaging, and I think this is a fantastic way to send this out. And of course it is reusable. It's not something that you'll throw away. Made out of some really strong fabric, and you've got this Kruger emblem on the front with that lovely rhino. So velcroed on, let's take it out, and you've got a nice pull tab here that seems to be quite a thin piece of wood. So let's take it out, and there we go. You'll find the Draken watch and an additional strap. Now as I mentioned earlier, this is the prototype version, so this is pre-launch. I will give you a lot of details in this video and a lot of specifications, what the prototype has and what the changes will also be on the production watches. Now as you briefly saw within the trailer, that this watch does come to you in a few different options. So you've got 3 different dial options. You've got this one that you see here, then you also got a panda version and a full black version, and then that translates across into 3 different DLC black versions as well, which do have extra hard coating, bringing it up to like 4000 HV scratch resistance on the titanium. So I've given away some of the specifications here. Let's get this off, and let's give you some more specs. Let's talk about the price, and just give you some dimensions, and let's have a closer look at this latest release from Draken watches. So as you can see, the style of watch, you know, as I mentioned about Draken watches, they do focus on tool-like watches. They want these watches to be everyday wearers, and I think the key focus for this watch to make it extremely visible, and that's why they've gone for such contrasting colors. And I think overall it is a very decent, you know, pilot style watch, and it does use a Seiko VK64 Mecha quartz movement. So this is the first chronograph watch as well, and that movement is very reliable, and it's a hybrid movement where you got some mechanical parts with quartz accuracy. So looking at this watch a little bit closer, let's give you an overview of the specifications. As I previously mentioned, this watch is full titanium. The only part which is stainless steel is the clasp. Now I get why they've done that, and I think that's a good place to put stainless steel. That's because, you know, the clasp will pick up quite a few scuffs and scratches from your usual desk diving, and titanium is a much softer material and then stainless steel, so it picks up scratches quite easily. Now this titanium that you can see, the finish on here, it is bead blasted to give you this matte effect, and the usual specifications follow. You do have a matte ceramic bezel insert. You've also got a 120 click unidirectional bezel, which as mentioned made out of titanium. You do have a domed sapphire crystal with 10 layers of air coating. As well as that, you do have 300 meters of water resistance, which is unheard of from a watch of this style. Usually these come in 100-meter water resistance. Now you do have a screw down crown which aids that, and you do have a case back, and yeah, so 300 meters, titanium, stainless steel clasp, this very legible dial. So it is already pointing towards a very tool-like watch. On wrist today, I am wearing the Seiko Quartz Daytona, so I happen to be wearing a quartz chronograph anyway. Let's look at dimensions. Now, these style of watches are usually quite big, so this watch comes in at a diameter of 44 millimeters. You do have a lug width of 22 millimeters, a lug to lug of 49.5 millimeters, and an overall thickness of 14.2 millimeters. Weight comes in at 143 grams, so a very decent weight overall considering still is titanium. And now the only difference I found from the stated dimensions to the ones I have checked is the case thickness is just over 14.2 millimeters at around 14.6 millimeters, which I think is significant enough to mention. Now moving on to the launch details, the pricing details. Now this watch is going to go live for pre-orders on the 1st of February 2022. So please leave a note in the calendar if you do decide by the time you finish watching the review that this is something you want to get your hands on. Now they are only 150 pieces. Now I don't know if that's across each and every variant, but perhaps they can clarify that a little later on. And you do have two prices available. You've got the normal titanium coming in at 639 New Zealand dollars. I will do the relevant conversions on screen. And with the DLC version coming in at 699 New Zealand dollars. So let's have a closer look at it. Let's see all the features that we have present on this watch. And let's look at the build quality as usual. Now, before I get into that, I do want to take some time here and to share a really important mission goal that Draken are trying to reach with this Kruger. Now it ties in with the name. So as I mentioned, it is the name of a national park in South Africa. Those parks are susceptible to poaching, etc. We know the current status of endangered species in the world. Now what Kruger do promise to do, they are going to actually give a portion of the profits from each watch, and this will go towards the rangers that do help protect these animals. And I don't know if you've seen the right documentaries, these rangers are no joke. They go strapped up, AK-47s, they've got all the ammunition, and there is a battlefield right against these poachers. These guys do risk their lives and going to protect these animals. As I mentioned about Draken watches anyway, they do have some inspiration from national parks, do center on wildlife, so clearly this is a passion of Draken watches. Truthfully, and this is not an advertisement, I think this is a fairly noble cause. Like if you were to purchase this watch, then know that a portion of your profits will be going to support these rangers and helping conserve this endangered wildlife that is being poached on a daily basis. Okay, now let's have a closer look at this watch. So in front of me, I do have the white dial. Now, it's not a brilliant white, I'll add. This is more of a off-white color. And then you can see some of the features here. At the 12 o'clock, you've got the traditional Flieger style marker, which is the upwards facing triangle with the two dots on either side. Now, the Arabics have been printed, but they are 3D printed. And you can see they're very clear. Now against this off-white background gives you awesome legibility. Now you also have two subdials on either side which are quite visible, and they are distinguished by these circular subset subdials. And if I zoom in slightly, just looking at some of the closer details, just have a look at the subdial on your right hand side, which is a 24-hour subdial. You can see these concentric circles, and to your left you do have a 60-second timer for the chronograph, and with a similar detail present, and you've got all the individual markers printed onto these subdials. Very well done considering this is a prototype. At the 6 o'clock you also have a subdial that does sort of blend in a lot more, and you've got these crosshairs present, and I really love that aspect because, again, going back to a tool watch, and you do have a pilot chronograph here, these crosshairs, I think they look fantastic. They blend in really well, and you can see the seconds hand does line up perfectly with those crosshairs. So I think that's a really nice touch. Let's screw down the crown. Let's get the hands out the way. Now you've got the Draken logo across the top. Now at the 6 o'clock you do have a cutout, and you've got a color match date wheel, and the color match is more or less exactly the same. It's not a brilliant white, it is the same off-white matching the dial perfectly. And you can see the date window is perfectly aligned. You do have a thin black outline around that frame. And you do have a minute track also printed around the dial, and you've got this blue on the second hand, which again adds to the legibility and definitely does stand out. Now the hands are matte black, but that matte black is only the outline. You can see there's actually a bit of detailing present. You can see the sides, the edges of the hands do stand out, and the center you've got this almost glossy paint applied, and you've got the white towards the center. So again, going back to that theme, that mission to have a very legible watch indeed. So these hands I think are perfect for this dial. Very nicely done, really well finished as well. Now let's check the chronograph out. As I mentioned, this is a Seiko VK63 mechanical quartz movement. And the thing with the mechanical quartz movement, it will snap back into place. So I think Draken going for legibility, they definitely got that. This dial is clear as anything to see. And I do like some of the smaller features, and I think everything has been done to a really good level. Crisp printing, good markers on there. And, you know, considering a prototype, I think they've done well. Now let's pay attention to the outer bezel. This is a matte ceramic bezel insert with white markers, again in line with that contrasting theme to increase visibility, and I think that's a really nice matte effect. It does make a change from those glossy bezels that we see, so you don't get hardly any glare coming off this watch. Really nice markers, very crisp and clear printing, and I think that suits really well. Looking at the design of the bezel, you've got this chunky grip, large spaces in between to give you a really nice grip off this bezel. Now let's check out the rotation. So this is meant to be a 120 click unidirectional bezel. Now what I will say is those clicks are very difficult to distinguish. I don't know if you can hear it, if the sound is coming across well enough on camera. It is very gritty. So yeah, that bezel action isn't the best at all. It's not as smooth as I like it, and those individual clicks, they're not very audible. And even the feel of the bezel, you don't really feel these individual clicks, you feel a lot of micro clicks. Now, I've already said it before, titanium bezels are difficult to work on because of the material. So yeah, this is going to be something that they are looking to change. So looking at the documentation that Draken have provided, there are a few changes that will happen in the production watches, and thankfully they've already identified the bezel as being one. Now I will wait to the end of the video and list off the changes you can expect in the production model, and then we'll take it from there. But yeah, the bezel does definitely need improving. Let's have a look at the lume. So because this watch is supposed to have some really good lume, let's see how that looks. Wow, what a sight. So now we know the reason why the dial is off-white. That's because the dial is fully lumed. You've got BGW9 lume on the dial, and you've also got BGW9 on the hour markers. Looking at the hands, you can see there is no lume applied to the hands, and it does make sense now why that's the case, because you've got everything else which is lumed. And just look at that clarity. You can definitely make out the exact time with this watch, no matter what time of day it is, or night. Even the seconds hand is visible. You can see that ticking away. Again, sticking to that tool design theme, I think that's really nice to look at. And I've not used any concentrated UV light. This is just from the lights in the room, so I know that this lume is quite good and it will last a fair while. Let's give it a quick blast of UV. Let's see how bright it really gets. Now that is super bright. Proper lighthouse. Now on camera it comes across as a very bright BGW9, but you know, to the naked eye it's a bit more greeny, and I know, I think it's just the way the ISO settings are set up, but regardless, either one, it is incredibly bright, as you can see. You know, look how visible that is. Amazing legibility at night time, and on a pilot watch this is extremely rare. You don't get this much lume nowhere near on a pilot watch, so this is a great blend between dive watch and pilot watch, and making this watch very, very usable. Everything is super visible. Now not only that, as a bonus you also get a lumed crown with the Draken logo. I think that just nicely tops it off. Let's turn our attention to the actual case. So you can see it's bead blasted. That means you do have a one style of finish all the way around the watch. Now looking at some of the features that you can see on the lugs, you've got these really angular lugs, grey little facets here, really nicely done, very smooth. Of course you've got the pushers which also have the same finish. and very positive click. I do like that. And you've got this really nice crown guard here as well. Again, very tool-like aesthetic. Now this crown is a bit of a signature from Draken. They do use these knurled crowns on most of their watches, if not all of them, and you know, it gives it a really good added grip, and I always prefer these style of crowns. The screw-in threads are very smooth as well. Really nice crown guard. This crown does fit snugly in there. And looking at the lugs, you'll see how they do slope down. Really nice angular case. You've got Draken across the side, and in hand there's no sharp edges, so some really good detailing present on the case. Great machine work on there, and I do love the angles of the case and the lugs. Let's turn the watch around. Let's have a look at the case back. As you can see, the same bead blasted finish. You've got this rhino present, the same rhino that we saw on the watch case. Draken, really nice detailing, great engraving. And again, I love themed watches. Everything matches, the branding matches, the message is clear cut and present on this watch. Now there is a little discrepancy that you see on the case back. You will notice that it says 316L. Now that is due to be changed on the production model, which will say titanium. And then you'll also have a numbered case back, as this is a limited edition watch. Now while we are on the back of the case, let's have a look at the links. They are solid end links on the bracelet. As you can see, you've got quick release spring bars, which is always handy because this watch does not have drilled lugs. So that is a good countermeasure. It still makes it quite easy to change the bracelet, and you can reuse these spring bars to put on like a NATO strap, and that they will provide, or any other type of strap that you want. The solid end links are fitted really well. You've also got female links, which is always a bonus considering the watch does have a near enough 50mm lug to lug. The individual links are really well done. It's a 3-link design, and you've got these chocolate bar style links, I suppose, with the beveled edges and with that same bead blasted finish. You've also got screw-in links. I'll have a look at these when I size up for my wrist. Moving on to the clasp, the flip lock here with the Draken engraved logo. Positive click when you do close it. 6 micro adjusts, and following that across. There's no sharpness present on the bracelet, and touching the case, there's no sharpness present on the case as well. Now from a prototype perspective, it's a very good prototype. There's hardly anything wrong with this. So let's get this sized up. Let's put this on wrist and let's see how it looks. Now here we have the Draken on my 6.5-inch wrist. So first of all, dimensions, how do they translate on such a small wrist, right? 6.5 inches is not a massive wrist at all. Now look at the lug to lug, 50mm I said, and I've always said that that is my limit. Now because the lugs do slope downwards, as you can see, it fits dead on. Now the added benefit of those female end links also make sure good conformity to the wrist from the bracelet. The smaller links on the bracelet also enable it to wrap around the wrist really well. The clasp is very comfortable, the bracelet is comfortable, and the weight is quite evenly spread out. Now even the 44mm diameter, it's not big. You know, pilot watches generally, most of them are quite large, especially the newer ones. So again, it helps with the legibility. So this is a cross between a pilot and a diver, because you got to remember you've got 300 meters of water resistance as well, a diving bezel, plus a chronograph, which the buttons are really nicely hidden just behind this bezel, which I think is a nice touch, so they don't stick out too much. Just nice subtle protrusions there, and overall I think this is a nice watch. Now thankfully, you know, Draken did provide a list of things they're going to change, so they kind of have done half my job for me. Now I've got to say, I only found one main issue with this, and that was the bezel, right? It's just very crunchy, very gritty. And I did notice as I was rotating it, and I think this one hadn't been rotated previously, I was getting bits of like titanium dust gathering around the links. Now that is one thing definitely that they are going to improve. You know, the bezel action will be improved with, like, you know, final molds. They are also going to change the 316L stamping on the back to titanium. They've also mentioned that they will improve the alignment of the chronograph hand. I don't see much of an issue with that. Okay, that hasn't bothered me at all. Maybe it's not dead center to that triangle, but you know, that's such a very small margin, and on camera, to be fair, it looks fine. But you know, good news if they are looking to kind of slightly tweak that. They'll also make a few different tweaks to the tooling on the bezel. They say the strap might be slightly different to the production model, and all watches, as I mentioned at the start of the video, they'll be in those pine cases. I'm more than happy with this. Okay, and if that's in a pine box, of course it adds that bit of value. And you know, from my audience that look at the AliExpress watches, I really wouldn't look at this watch from an AliExpress mindset view. You know, those watches, they're mainly homages. There's little or no design behind there. There's no passion behind there in that sense. You know, people are just trying to make money. That's why you can get them quite cheap. They have access to cheaper materials, cheaper labor, and you know, it might well be that majority of the watch was made in China, but you know, with such a limited quantity they are producing, unfortunately the costs are a lot higher. Now let's add the benefit of the cause behind it as well. You know, good cause, and I really like the theme and you know the idea behind Draken watches. And you know what, I'm getting quite used to wearing this watch. I think it suits myself quite well. So I'll leave all the details about this watch with regards to the website, how it can be purchased, etc., within the description. Remember, these are available to order from February next year. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you to Draken for sending this watch in. Thank you, Mike, for the chocolate as well, mate. Yeah, and just apologies to the others that won't receive the chocolates. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next video.